All right, let's talk about what just happened in the silver market. And I mean, this wasn't just another crazy day of ups and downs. No, this was something else entirely. We literally watched a global market break in two, right before our eyes. We're talking about a fundamental structural shift here, and the signals, well, they're impossible to ignore.
It all kicked off with this one number, negative 15%. Can you believe that? In the span of just half an hour, the silver market absolutely collapsed. For a major global commodity like silver, that's a seismic event. But you know what? The real story here isn't the crash itself. It's what happened after the crash that changes everything.
Okay, just look at the violence of this V-shaped recovery. So at 9:15 in the morning, silver's looking strong, trading at $121 an ounce. Barely an hour later, by 10:29 a.m., bam! It's cratered to 106. Now, normally a drop like that's going to trigger days, maybe even weeks of follow-up selling, but not this time. By the close, it had clawed its way back to 117. The entire $15 beatdown was absorbed and then completely reversed in just a few hours. That's just unheard of.
So that brings up the big question, right? What on earth could be strong enough to absorb that kind of selling pressure? Well, the answer is that the global market is fundamentally decoupling. We're now in this bizarre situation where there are two completely different prices for the exact same ounce of silver. It all depends on where you're looking and what you're buying, a paper contract or the actual physical metal.
And this slide just lays it out in black and white. Over in New York, on the COMEX, where they're trading all the paper derivatives, the price closed around 117 bucks an ounce. But get this, at the same time in Shanghai, where they're trading actual physical metal, it was going for over $141. That is not a small gap, people. That is a chasm. It's like the physical market in the East is just completely ignoring the paper price being set in the West.
Yeah, a $25 premium per ounce. That's the key takeaway right here. A premium that big is a massive red flag. It's signaling extreme stress in the physical supply chain. It tells you that buyers in Asia are so desperate for actual metal that they're willing to pay way over the paper price. And this premium, we're hearing it's growing by $2 to $5 every single day. An arbitrage gap this huge can't exist forever. Something's got to give.
And look, this price gap isn't just a curiosity for traders. It's a symptom of something much bigger. It means the physical supply chain is breaking down under just immense demand. Think of it like the plumbing of the entire system. It's seizing up, and we can actually see it happening step by step.
So here's how the dominoes are falling. First, the big US refineries get totally swamped. They're so backed up, they just stop accepting new metal. Okay, then that trickles down to the local coin dealers. They can't get product out the door fast enough, so they have to stop buying from the public. And the final step? We're hearing a major government mint is on the verge of shutting down its silver sales completely. This is a top-to-bottom failure of the entire physical network. You see, for years, there's been this playbook, right? The big banks could dump a ton of paper contracts on the market to slam the price down. And it worked. It used to trigger weeks of selling. But that playbook is broken. It's done. Twice this week, we saw massive $15 raids, just like the old days, and they were completely absorbed in a matter of hours. Why? Because the physical buying coming out of Asia is now so powerful, it's just overwhelming the Western paper selling. The center of gravity is shifting from west to east, from paper to physical.
Okay, but let's be honest here. We have to address the bear case. It's crucial to understand why that crash happened in the first place. This wasn't just some random fluke. There were some seriously powerful forces pushing the price down, and if you're in this market, you absolutely have to understand these risks. This is about why leverage can be so destructive.
It was really a confluence of a few major things all hitting at once. First, you had traders using insane amounts of leverage. We're talking 50, even 100 to 1. Then you had a ton of profit taking. I mean, silver was up 380%, so you can't blame people for cashing in. On top of that, the whole stock market was in a risk-off mood, selling everything. And from a technical standpoint, precious metals were more overbought than they have ever been. It was, literally, the perfect storm for a major collapse.
And this really gets to the heart of the danger of leverage. The quote says it all. Your thesis doesn't matter when the margin clerk calls. You can be 100% right about the long-term story. You can have the fundamentals completely nailed down, but none of that means a thing when you get that call from your broker forcing you to sell because of a crazy intraday price swing. Leverage, my friends, does not care about your thesis.
But here's the most crucial point of this whole thing, the single most important takeaway. The paper market threw everything it had at silver. That perfect storm of bearish factors we just talked about, it all hit at the exact same time, and the price still recovered to turn green on the same day. Think about that. The physical market just soaked it all up. This is the strongest evidence yet that underlying physical demand is now the one true force driving this market.
So, where do we go from here? What does all this mean? Well, it means the old playbook is dead and buried. We're in a totally new regime. And hey, don't just take my word for it. Even the biggest players on Wall Street are starting to wake up and acknowledge this new reality.
Just look at what the major banks are doing with their gold price targets. They're scrambling to update them. You've got Goldman at 5,400, Deutsche Bank at 6,000, and JP Morgan is way out there at 8,500. What they're seeing is a flood of private capital moving into precious metals. And they know that silver, which is a much smaller market than gold, is going to be massively leveraged to that trend.
Okay, so let's try to make this actionable. How should you think about this depending on who you are? Well, if you're a leveraged trader, the message couldn't be clearer. Be careful. This kind of environment will liquidate you in a heartbeat. You have to reduce your leverage or maybe even just sit this one out. Now, if you're a physical stacker, all this volatility is probably just noise. The real signal is the underlying structural story. So these shakeouts could actually be buying opportunities. And for anyone still on the sidelines, my advice is to really take the time to understand what's happening here and think hard about the safety of physical metal versus paper in a market this unstable.
So, I'll just leave you with this one big question to think about. What happens when a global market has two completely different prices for the exact same thing? Because that's where we are. This $25 premium between Shanghai and New York, it's like a rubber band being stretched tighter and tighter. It has to resolve. The question isn't if it's going to snap back, it's how, and what that's going to mean for the rest of the financial system when it does.